Welcome to Council Matters. We call the show Council Matters because the Municipal Act specifies that all municipal powers are exercised only by council by resolution. If you think about it for a second, that means that mayors, like me, work for council, and council, by extension, works for you, the people. Today, we're talking about the Bronte Village area, specifically its economic and business health and how to make it better. Continuous improvement is a really important value for the council of the town of Oakville. And today we're going to hear from Marc Danko, who's a commercial real estate expert in Bronte, Mary Roberts, who's the chair of the Bronte Business Improvement Area, and Doug Greco, who's the president of a corporation that specializes in successful restaurants. Doug, can I describe you that way?
A little bit of an exaggeration, but certainly we've got a few nice restaurants in the Bronte area, and we're always working at getting a little bit more going.
So Marc, in commercial real estate, you have your finger on the pulse of the community. One of the things that council has done over the last few years is create both a special plan for the development of the village to try to create more winning conditions for business in the area, and we've also set out a business action plan for the BIA to help stimulate business. How are you seeing the present, and what do you project in the Bronte Village area?
Yes, I was part of some focus groups that we had on Bronte Village and looking at how we can bring business to Bronte and foster it. Some of the challenges we do have in there as far as the retail type business goes, what's important to the retailers is visibility, obviously, and traffic. So you know, just in terms of the location of Bronte, it is very local, and the challenge of trying to draw people into that area is going to be a big one for sure. The way the Bronte Village is set up in terms of the overall dynamic, lots of concentration obviously is needed along the lake shore. That's the high traffic, and to pull in some of the side streets off of that area, south of Lakeshore on Bronte Road especially, is going to be a challenge as well.
Mary, as the chair of the BIA, what's your sense of the state of affairs now, and what are your hopes for the future?
Well, Bronte is a beautiful area. It's got a lot of wonderful things going on for it. And when we did our public consultations, of which Marc was part, somebody described it as the next great thing on Lake Ontario. And so it's just a matter of getting to that point where it is well developed, and right now there's just some, if you think of Bronte as a smile, there's some teeth missing. And part of that is a good retail mix, and part of that is some more development and some rejuvenation of businesses that are already there.
Yeah. Doug, your new restaurant, Plank, seems to have been a hit from the minute you started it. The fire hall is certainly a fixture in Bronte life, and Cucci seems to be succeeding as well. So how do you fit your experience into the larger picture here?
Well, I would say I generally always look on the silver side of the spoon, and I think being a resident of Bronte since '63, I've seen a lot of great changes, and it just seems to be growing at a rapid rate now. It took a long time to get going, but it seems to have really caught fire. I think with all the new home developments and the condominium on the water, projected growth in the area, I see nothing but upside down there. So although I agree with Marc saying that there are some needs for a lot more visibility and such, I believe good businesses will make people come to the area and keep the area growing. So I think that, you know, Cucci's a great example of that, being on a side street, which is zero visibility. It's across from the plaza, but it's become a destination spot. And we have ample parking, which is something that we don't have downtown, in my view. I think it's a little bit more difficult. So ample free parking down there, although again off the side street, but I think it's a destination spot, and people, once they find it, continue to go.
Okay, Mary, the idea behind what the work that council did over the last 7 years with respect to Bronte is focused on getting more residents and more customers, I would say, into the Bronte Village area. And we had a very extensive community discussion around the poles of the discussion, I guess, were people who wanted to sort of freeze it the way it was, but at the same time they were concerned about the empty shops, and people who were concerned about the empty shops and thought the solution is more customers, a bigger customer base. And so as a result, the official plan for the town, which we adopted about 4 years ago, is calls for about 5,000 more people in the village area, if I remember correctly. So as the head of the BIA, I imagine that you hear a lot of people saying, could we get on with it, and when are the people coming? What kind of feedback do you get?
The feedback has changed over the years. We used to get a lot of feedback from residents, and you alluded to that wanted to see Bronte stay as a very quaint village, which is not very helpful to the businesses there because that's not drawing traffic. So we find that in terms of the feedback that we get from the residents, a lot of residents have changed, and they realize that in order for Bronte to thrive, there needs to be some growth. And merchants as well recognize that there needs to be some development and growth, and so we're pleased with the direction that things are going. And I know that there have been some concerns expressed from the commercial property owners in terms of building heights and zoning issues, and does that detract a developer from coming to Bronte because there are some restrictions in place. So our town councillor Ralph Robinson and our other councillor Johnston have put forward a resolution that in the next town plan go around that be looked at so that there can be some more substantial development in the Bronte area.
So in your experience, Marc, as when you're helping businesses to locate in the Bronte area, do you have, as an agent, do you get to play a role in trying to decide what would be a good long-term fit versus maybe a short-term failure? Or do you and the landlords that you represent, how does that dynamic play out?
I mean, businesses will go to an area if they deem it viable. So I think a lot of businesses, especially the smaller startup, I'll call them mom and pop shops, come in with good intention, and the only way you're going to bring in customers is to operate a good viable business, and Doug is a perfect example of that, and how he mentions Coochie's developed into a destination location. I think so. If you can create businesses like that which are strong and will draw people in, and mix that in with, I'll call them mainstream top tier type of retailers, for example, there'll be a bit of a magnet as well for other businesses. So people like to locate around successful businesses. And you've got to create the density. I agree as well. Unfortunately, Bronte is set up right now, so we do have a good viable business, and then an empty shop, and then a vacant land, piece of property, and I think we really need to develop that density. I'm a big proponent of the patios for restaurants. I mean, we saw what Plank did last year. Sure. Extremely successful, and just created that real buzz. And I just envision an area there where we had a bunch of patios together. And I know there's some other issues that come along with that, but it would just create that buzz and density. Tenants, though, I mean, if we can, you're putting it all together. So the rents have to be affordable, obviously. Parking, you've got to have parking. Free parking is what tenants look for, easy for their customers. And then try and maintain that village type feel that Mary alluded to as well.
So Mary, do you agree that what's needed is a mix of mom and pop and brand name rather than all of one or all of the other?
Absolutely. Right now, Bronte is quite heavy in terms of natural health. We could call ourselves the wellness capital of Oakville. We have an overabundance, in my opinion, of spas, chiropractic care, medical, that sort of thing. So now we really need to attract some retail business, and I think it would be nice to have, a high-profile business that would come in, and then some more unique mom and pop businesses. That's what we really need. We need to fill in those spaces, not just in the the actual face of Bronte, but we need to have more so that people come down and can go from one place to one place to one place, as opposed to just come to one place and leave and go back and forth.
I recently met with a mall owner and was kind of startled to hear that the malls are under pressure, and they have identified their big competitor that's making it hard for stores to continue in a mall as online shopping. Yes. Mm-hmm. And their conclusion was that they had to do two things. They need to target, and I guess they're uniquely able to pick and choose who will come in. They needed to target businesses who had services or goods that you couldn't rationally and easily deal with online. So stuff you had to be fitted for, perhaps, and services that you obviously can't get online. Doug, of course, you're in a business it's very hard to get a meal online in a quality restaurant environment. The second thing they wanted to do, they said, was they have to get more compelling activities and attractions that would make people want to come and pass time there and in effect be there long enough to think of, oh, I just remembered I'd like to buy that book or whatever it is. Although I guess books are more and more an online thing, but the premise is that you got to get people comfortable and used to wanting to spend part of their time in your environment. Has the BIA been working on plans or ideas to increase the attractiveness or to invent attractions?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as part of our Bronte Village Action Plan, we certainly have some activities planned. Events are one way that you can get people to the area. If you put on a good event, people come down and then they see how wonderful the area is and, oh, I must come back. We need to do more with regard to signage. We just this past year put some signage on the QEW, and that has really pulled people down that are driving by and they see our nice sign and they think, I'm going to go down to Bronte. We've done a lot more work in terms of beautification and making the place look nice, benches. We would like to see, I know that the town is doing a pilot project with Kerr with regard to facade improvement, so we're anxious to see how that works out and hope that will, we might be able to see something like that as well. But absolutely, you have to draw the people down. And one of our big challenges, we have a huge attraction, which is the lake, but in the winter, that's something that we really need to look at and work on. How do you draw people down to a lakeside town in the middle of the winter, especially a winter like this?
This has been the winter from somewhere we're not used to.
Yes.
Doug, do you have any like a pet wish for an attraction or an activity that would be attractive to more people to spend time in running?
You know what, I don't have any pet projects for it. I have a different thought on beautification and such, and certainly when we're talking about getting people down to Bronte in the winter, I think it's certainly a beautiful space. Anybody that walks down Bronte Road in the winter can see on a nice winter night, it's quite a beautiful spot, but I think that there should be more dollars put towards that beautification with more lit up trees and things like that, more decor that's going to draw people down. I don't know if, and I could be Mary, I don't mean any disrespect, but with the Bronte BIA and the Kerr Street BIA, the downtown BIA, and now an upper town BIA, in my view, I think that they should be amalgamated and looked at more of a way that we can find, we all want to get people to Oakville. We all want to get it to our area. But I think that the most important thing is to get people into Oakville, first of all. Where they go from there is going to be entirely up to them. I think we've got fantastic restaurants in East Oakville, Kerr Street, and Bronte. And we run restaurant programs that are, each BIA is kind of working their own end. Unfortunately, in Bronte, we don't have a lot of restaurants, and I would love to be included in an overall restaurant program that would bring people into Oakville. As you look at Winterlicious downtown, what a great program that is. But when one BIA wants to do their restaurant program, and then you're left with three smaller BIAs trying to get involved with their own promotions to work that, I think would be a much better dollar spent if we amalgamated the BIAs and try to work at some things that way.
Marc, do you have a one single idea that your top wish for what might make Bronte even more attractive?
I mean, the beautification is definitely up there. Again, I've lived in Bronte for 12 years and have seen the changes that have occurred down there, and they've been great. But I mean, the promotion of the harbor, promotion of that kind of marine and beach kind of life as well, that could draw a lot of those types of retailers in there. Don't forget, as much as we're drawing from the north and people coming in, it also seems to be a destination too, with people coming from across the lake and whatnot, but mostly summer activities, right? So as far as the winter goes, I think creating a central square in Bronte would be ideal, with some activity around that square, and by activity I mean retail type of activity, much like downtown Oakville. And just we need to create that density down there. Otherwise, retailers just won't want to kind of stick their neck out and give it a try. It's very challenging. So,
well, thank you very much for your ideas. I'll discuss those with council in three members of council in just a moment, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Council Matters. Every councillor on the Council of the Town of Oakville has an interest in the health of Bronte, and indeed every part of town, and a say and a vote. But we have three councillors joining us now who have a unique perspective on Bronte. The two councillors from Bronte, Town and Regional Councillor Alan Johnston and Town Councillor Ralph Robinson, and Town Councillor Roger Lapworth, who represents Ward 4 but has businesses in Bronte. And so some days I like to joke that Bronte has 3 councillors, not just 2. So Gentlemen, you heard the panel before discussing, I thought, cheerfully, they seem to recognize and be pleased with what Council's done over the last 8 years to assist Bronte to become more attractive and more successful. And they also seem to have some pretty clear ideas about the future and what they think Bronte needs. Alan, you and Ralph are uniquely positioned to bring feedback to this discussion about how do you feel the rest of the ward, the rest of the Ward 1 area that you represent would regard these ideas that we just heard?
I think the panel had some great ideas. We have a very successful businessman and the BIA chair, and of course the real estate advice, and they all brought something to the discussion. The residents of Bronte do want to see a revitalised downtown core, and I believe our plan and zoning bylaws have started that process, and we need the buy-in of the property owners to continue it.
Okay. Ralph, I don't think anyone's been on council as long continuously as you, and that makes you the dean of the council of the town of Oakville, by some lights anyway, and certainly you've represented Bronte the entire time. So what's your sense of the rest of the ward's attitude towards especially the piece that we heard earlier today on increasing the number of people who live and work in the Bronte Village area?
Well, those three panelists were excellent. They hit everything right on the head, the way that I believe all three of us agree. But I would like to make reference to something coming out of the need for a change. And instead, the time has come, Mr. Mayor, for us to now consider not what we can't do for Bronte, but rather what we should be doing. And I think therein lies the crux of what's ahead of us. We have this business plan that Mary alluded to and that Marc alluded to, working great for us. It's just getting started. There's a lot more going to happen. And as Doug Greco said, Bronte's on fire. I always say that. It needs a little bit more steam and a little more heat, but it's going to happen. We need the merchants in Bronte to become involved as well and get out there and work with us and enforcing and promoting that plan. And this place is going to turn around and be a place to go to, a place, a vision that everybody will want to be part of.
So would that be without adding any more residents or jobs to the village? Or do you see a need? I mean, you and Alan introduced a resolution asking for the planning staff in the review of the official plan that's coming up in a year or so to look at increasing that. What's your sense of the way that will be greeted by the rest of your ward?
The rest of the ward, the people in Ward 1, are gradually starting to realize that we need to make some changes. And, Your Worship, that is another one that we need to make, and that's increasing the density. These property owners and the merchants need more happening down there. And in order to make more happen, they need more for it to happen with. They need higher buildings, they need more of them, and they need a little bit more freedom to come up with a plan that'll work for Bronte, rather than what the provincial legislation sometimes dictates.
So the premise behind your resolution, behind your request to planning, is that more residents would equal more demand, and more demand would equal better business.
That's absolutely right.
Correct.
Now Roger, you could have chosen anywhere to set up your businesses, and you chose Bronte. What's your sense of how this will work?
Well, the reason I chose Bronte for my business was because of the beautiful lake that we have, and being a boat owner, I have my boat there as well. And of course, we thoroughly enjoy the restaurants that are there. There are a number of areas where we can build up and bring more residents and businesses into the area. But Bronte has come a long way. The BIA has done a wonderful job over the past 5 or 6 years in enhancing the beautification, the streetscape, advertising, signage, bringing more people in. It is working. It's beginning to work beautifully right now. It just needs a little more time to get to where we want to be.
All right. Well, there's an elephant in the room that none of us have talked about yet, and that's the state of the Bronte Village Mall and everyone's anxiety about when, if ever, will the plan that we approved for the redevelopment of it take place. Ralph, what's your sense of the prospects?
My sense about the Bronte Village Mall is, first of all, one of disappointment. Excuse me, sir. Because we believed that when we worked out a resolution with the owner of the property through the OMB, sorry, that he would have accepted that and gone ahead and made the changes that he had wanted. He hasn't done that, as you know. We can't. We don't own the land. We only wish that Mr. Goldman would get on with the job of doing what we expected he would do when we gave him the approval that he asked for.
Yeah. Alan, what about you? What's your sense of that?
Ralph's right. The Bronte Mall was a key part of the downtown core, and I would say to Mr. Goldman, if you don't want to build, sell to someone who will build, because it's important that we get the reconstruction underway.
Well, Roger, you're active in the BIA, and you presumably are in touch with your fellow members. Do the members of the BIA feel as Ralph and Alan do?
They absolutely do. We have about 200 members, and they contribute to the levy about $300,000 a year. I know that they very much appreciated the increased beautification in this past summer, and for the lighting, for example, the tree lighting that we had last December. A lot of the merchants stayed open, especially for that. We are definitely getting there. We just need a little more time to fine-tune exactly what we want to do with the streetscape.
Ralph, what did Bronte look like when you started?
Smaller, quieter, sleepier, and not nearly as aggressive. You want me to elaborate on that, or does that take you?
I'd be delighted to hear how you're going to work with that. Let's dig that a little deeper. Dig a little deeper into that.
Into what I just said?
Yes.
Well, it's like every other part of Oakville. It's progressed and grown with the economic requirement of the times, and in particular with Bronte. People are very grateful for what we have there now, and I'm talking about the people that live in the area and have lived there for most of their lives. But they understand that the time has come for changes to be made, and as we've already talked about here over the last 10 minutes, these changes are starting, and they're coming, and they're going to come quickly.
So between the Bronte Village study that's a piece of the Livable Oakville plan,
yeah,
and the business action plan that economic development did with the BIA, and your resolution for a relook at the amount of residential in the area
and retail,
your view then is that the only direction is up.
Absolutely. There's no reason to think of anything else. As I said, it's time now that we decided what we need to do, not what we can't do.
All right. Thanks very much for contributing to this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've seen that, in a very real sense, in Oakville, council matters.